Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I am Luke Carruthers, and welcome to another episode of Escaping Through the Lens. I nearly said Z21 Gamer Luke, my YouTube channel name, just then, because I'm used to saying that so much for recording for that. Anyway, today's film I'll be talking about not necessarily sort of new, but I think recent enough regarding what's going on with the Godzilla versus Kong trailer. And to discuss it, I've invited my good friend Ray. Say hello, Ray.
Hello.
And before we get into in-depth discussion of this, we'll start off with general thoughts on this, our overall thoughts on it. So, Ray, we'll start with you.
Oh, overall thoughts.
Yeah.
Probably the best way to describe my overall thoughts on the movie, I'd probably rate it, and I would give it a 5 out of 10. I think it's a half decent movie.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thoughts on it. I had a lot of problems with it, but a lot of it was to do with the characters and the story. But the other half, I would say, would be as a monster movie, as a standalone concept, I'd say it was very good. So I am kind of half and half on it.
Yeah, I'm in a sort of similar mindset. If I was to look at this critically, this film is very, very easy to pick apart.
Oh yeah.
But just for entertainment value, I'd say that this is a fantastic film to watch.
Yeah, some of the scenes and some of the imagery was really intense. I feel like this is a really good cinema experience movie. Is to see the
Yeah.
monsters on screen in all like a huge glory and to hear like the roars and the fight scenes, it would be really intense in that kind of environment.
Yeah, definitely. As a film itself, if we're to start off with a one note on this, that I put on this, the cinematography is gorgeous.
Oh yeah, definitely. And there was some of the I find a lot of the scenes, the gore factor in it was really intense. I really enjoyed that. Like at the start when the guy gets his hands sliced by the katana, the sound in that was just absolutely chilling. I find that really, really good.
And you see, I wouldn't know that because I wouldn't have noticed that sound because I'm deaf as a doorknob.
Oh.
I mean, there are certain sounds I could pick up in it, but I'd definitely say that my weakest point in terms of like media itself is sort of sound mixing. I don't really notice it that much.
Yeah. See, all that kind of technical stuff I'm not very good at. I'm more of like is the story good? Is the visuals good? And do I like the characters? Kind of how I view a movie is not really like the technical sense. I'm more of kind of a enjoyment kind of person.
Yeah, I can understand that.
It's
Uh,
probably a poor thing though, saying I'm doing TV production and my lecturers will hate me for that.
Sorry, I'm pretty sure all of my 8 listeners won't give us away. One thing that I took note on this with this compared to I mean I want to say compared to like previous Kong films, but the only real but the only one that I've seen before is the one with Jack Black and Andy Serkis.
Yeah, yeah.
But in comparison to that, I'd say that this film did a very good job in like humanizing Kong.
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, Yeah, I get that with the scene where he came towards the female lead and she like touched him and she was like crying or something.
Yeah,
Like that did give him kind of that human connection. But for what I find with Kong and a lot of the other characters, there was no real build up to that. It was like, oh, they came in, bombed his habitat, he was angry at them, and then for some reason there was a connection out of nowhere. I kind of find that a bit jarring.
yeah, that was a bit of like whiplash of sort of job for them to like suddenly start caring about it, especially considering like Tom Hiddleston's character was hired for specifically to face any dangers, and then suddenly he's like on like Kong's side. I did find that a little bit odd.
Yeah. Oh, Tom Hiddleston as a character in this, I really did not enjoy. I most of my notes are just complaints on Tom Hiddleston. Like, I really like Tom Hiddleston. I like Loki is one of my favorite characters, and I adore that man so much. But I find him so boring in this. He was meant to be like this adventure kind of interesting character, but he had no depth at all. He didn't do much, and oh, I did not like him. Also, the kind of like rough, kind of rugged adventurer look didn't really mix with like the well-clipped posh accent. I thought it was really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I do kind of get that. As with a lot of the like human characters in these kind of films, one of the things is that is that they're not really sort of that strong. More so because I feel like that kind of works because if you're going to see a Kong film or a Godzilla film, you're not watching it for the humans. You're watching it because of the monsters itself.
Yeah, yeah, definitely get that. The monsters in this movie were really interesting though. Like they were very starkly contrasted with the humans. The humans were very dull and one-dimensional, but the creatures were really good. I thought
Yeah,
like the big spider one was really
yeah.
interesting.
Oh, that freaked my sister out.
Oh, I loved it. And whenever it was walking through the jungle and it stepped through the man's mouth, that just I love horror, so that just made me happy. It was such a horrific scene. I loved it.
That actually didn't really. I understood that as a kind of like horror method, but I actually didn't like get a sort of horrific reaction. I just thought, but I think that might also come from the fact that I didn't really, like connect like with the humans. Like so,
Yeah.
like normally when you see like that horrific death, it's like, oh no,
Yeah,
uh,
you care.
yeah, you care. But in my sense, I'm just like, oh no, not that guy.
Not soldier number 4 that's died. Oh no. Um, I liked it because as a monster movie, I find that having a horrific death like that kind of makes you a bit more afraid of the monsters and it makes them a bit more, the hype around them is a bit more built up. Like, oh, these monsters are actually quite ferocious and quite terrifying.
Yeah, because because for a film called Kong Skull Island, there's actually fairly sort of little sort of action or like fights that happen with Kong.
Yeah. I love the
So,
end fight with him.
yeah, I love that fighters too. But like the stuff that's in between, obviously there like has to be action in between. Otherwise, you're just sort of sitting through like a bunch of ex-Vietnam soldiers walking through a jungle. So there needs to be like some kind of action somewhere.
Hmm.
So the fact that they can like show like the terrors of like what's there, I feel like sort of heightens sort of like the idea of like how powerful Kong is if he's been defending like creatures on the island for this length of time.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like in this movie they did say that he wasn't fully grown. And for the fact that he was going around like ripping these creatures apart and he isn't at like max strength kind of gives you that anticipation for, oh, what movies are gonna come next? What more are we gonna see from him? It kind of made him a bit more terrifying, I think.
And it also kind of gives like a good explanation to like every. Do you remember when the Godzilla versus Kong trailer first came out and everybody said like Godzilla's too tall?
Yeah, I heard all about that. Yeah. Oh, the ending of this movie with a little bit, like the little clip of like Godzilla and all the other monsters. I think that was my favorite part in the movie. Because I am a huge Godzilla fan. That's something I could talk about all day. And just to see him in the movie, I was like, oh, I'm hyped for the next one.
It was your favorite part of the film. You just had to wait 2 hours to see it.
Yeah, and I had to wait 1 hour for Tom Hiddleston to do anything. I find him useless.
Which, given that we're talking about Tom Hiddleston, do we want to talk about the other characters and their roles in this? I know it's very minuscule, but we might as well talk about it because you mentioned the female lead, Brie Larson.
Yeah. Oh, I love to come out of a movie and really like enjoy the characters, but also one of like the main things for me is if I at least remember the character's name,
Yeah,
I'll be happy. But I did not remember her name at all. I think I remembered one character's name and that was it. Like,
I don't remember any character's name
yeah.
in the film that wasn't Kong.
There's some things that annoy me about movies when it comes to female characters because like I do love to see strong female characters and things, but there was just some details about her character that annoyed me where they were journeying through the island and they were adventuring and doing all the stuff in an adventure movie, and
Yeah,
then suddenly she just loses her jacket. One scene it's there, one scene it's gone, and I was like, where did her jacket go? Why did we need to take her clothes off? And then out of all the characters to jump into water or to get wet, it was just her. And I was like, okay, take her clothes off and then have her grey top is suddenly see-through. Oh no. Oh, that just irritated me.
I I didn't sort of notice that detail, but now that you pointed it out to me, it's like, yeah, you can can kind of see like the issues with that.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
I
because
did.
maybe it's because I'm a guy. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe you're meant to notice it. Maybe that's what it's for. As a
I
guy,
mean,
you know.
supposedly. I mean, why else would they like hire Brie Larson? I guess.
True, true. She's a good actress. I really liked her as a concept of the like anti-war photographer. I feel
Yeah.
like just a little bit more development would have been nice.
Yeah, even though she didn't really have that much of a character in this film to a point where you don't really remember her name, I'm gonna pick the controversial side and say that I liked her more in this film than I did Captain Marvel.
All right. See, I haven't seen Captain Marvel yet, so I can't comment on that.
Yeah. I'll say proceed with caution when going to watch that film. I won't say anything like spoiler wise towards that film, but speaking from like a general consensus, as just sort of as a Marvel fan, it's probably my second least favorite.
See, I'm a Marvel fan too, so for me, it's going to be quite like sketchy to watch it. Going in with the mindset, like from hearing you say proceed with caution, it's going to make me really stressed watching it now.
But well, you never know. I mean, it might work out. I mean, it might work out pretty good if you go with that mindset. It turns out to be good for you. Then you'll be like taken by surprise.
Maybe it's just those movies I hold very highly, so anything that could risk that, I'm a bit cautious on.
Yeah. Speaking of Marvel, this film, for us, in terms of like I'm trying to remember the company's name. Monarch is the company that they send to Skull Island
Yeah.
in order to, as John Goodman's character put it, investigate giant organisms.
Hmm.
And he mentioned the bit with Godzilla at the end, and it's almost very clear that it's taking a sort of Marvel-esque approach in
Yeah.
setting up its own cinematic universe.
Yeah, definitely. I think that. Oh, I'm just really excited for the Godzilla versus Kong movie. I
As I'm sure many of us are. I
because
never thought that I'd be excited to see a giant monkey beat up a giant lizard, but then I saw that trailer and I was like, I've got to see this.
yeah. Oh, I loved Godzilla King of the Monsters. It is one of my favorite movies. So I have so much hope for the next one. And I did enjoy, on the topic of characters, I did enjoy Samuel L. Jackson. One of the other characters asked him how he plans on defeating Kong. And he's like, "You're going to need a lot of men. What are you going to do? Call the cavalry?" And Samuel L. Jackson turns to him and goes, "I am the cavalry." And that was just quite an. It's one of those epic movie scenes where it's just such a
Yeah.
quotable line. It's just iconic.
It's a line that only an actor like Samuel Jackson you can find him saying.
Samuel L. Jackson playing Samuel L. Jackson every time. I always feel like he just plays the same characters.
Yeah.
They are quite good though, but like a bit more diversity I think would be nice.
Yeah, which the film I think tries to have like diverse cast in terms
Ooh.
of like like who they hire as actors, and I can kind of like give them like praise for that, even though it is very clear which actor's taking priority over
Yeah,
like which other actor.
yeah. I liked I have a problem with the biologist woman had maybe 4 lines in the whole thing, and then the
Yeah,
other guy that worked for Monarch, the guy with the glasses, like the tech guy, he just had like 2 lines. He was just pointless. I feel like they could have cut the cast in two and then just
yeah,
focused more on half of the characters and developed them a bit more. It would have been a lot better than having this huge cast.
yeah. The soldiers and like the rest of like the other characters, I think more or less just exist as like fodder
Yeah.
to to basically be killed by Kong and the rest of the rest of the monsters, because if not many people are dying from like the massive chaos around them, then what's the point of the action sequences?
Yeah, true. I did like the idea of the soldiers being like what you say fodder at the start whenever the helicopters were crashing and one of the guys gets sucked into the like helicopter blades.
Oh, I winced at that.
Oh, I thought it was very good. I really liked it. And they had Black Sabbath playing in the background, and it was just an epic scene. I thought it was very good.
Yeah, to comment on that scene when they were like first flying in and playing Black Sabbath on the radio. My mum loves Black Sabbath.
Oh, right.
Yes, yes, she was sort of like jiving out to that, but then because she's very because she's very like carried towards like nature. When she realised that they were like dropping essentially sort of gas bombs on like the creatures like in the like jungle, just sort of went from jiving to just sort of stopping.
Oh, that's sad. I will say I did really like the music in the movie from Black Sabbath, and then they played David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust at one point. And I am a huge Bowie fan, so that just made my day. I really like the soundtrack. It's very good.
It is very much taking advantage of the fact that it's set in the 70s.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Which I'm gonna say I kind of like the idea that it tried to set itself in in an older sort of time date, in a day and age where monster films have to have humans with like modern technology to to be able to track them and like read their vital organs and like find ways to like stop them. They very very quickly become dated. Whereas with something like Kong Skull Island, if you give it a time stamp from the past and very clearly set limitations as to what they can do, I feel like that allows for more enjoyment because you're not watching something that's going to very quickly become dated.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. Yeah, I didn't even think about that when I watched it.
What did you think of the motion capture that they used for Kong?
See, I'm not very technical on things like this, so to me it looked absolutely fine. I don't know about like little details that everyone else would pick up on, but to me, just as a regular viewer watching this big animated monkey, I thought, oh, it's pretty good.
It's an animated monkey. It looks good.
Good monkey. Monkey look good.
monkey look good. I'm pretty sure there's like an IMDb review somewhere with just that line.
Definitely. Oh,
Yeah.
what do you think about it?
I'm more or less sort of the same viewing point as you. I'm more sort of like a regular. So I didn't really like notice some of like the fine sort of details, but I went as I sort of looked up like how they did like the motion capture of it, and I was definitely very impressed by it because I'm on and off with motion capture.
Right.
On the offhand, there is a lot of work you have to go into to making something look completely natural. But at the same time, the motion capture helps to make it look very natural, like frame by frame.
Yeah.
Like I think one of the best examples that I definitely saw with motion capture was the one they did with Josh Brolin as Thanos.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Good.
It was definitely because if done right, it's able to make big, sometimes unusual objects move like incredibly natural, as if they're like really there.
Yeah.
As well as like being able to like go to the detail of adding in things that you wouldn't really think they'd have. The video that I looked up, they said they spent a lot of detail or a lot of time just adding a bunch of like leaves and mud on his arms because he's been wandering around the jungle a lot.
I didn't even notice that. That's a really good like little detail. I guess that too adds to like the realism. So those little details plus like what you said about like the fluid motion, it looks a lot more natural. Yeah.
It's a very it's a phrase that's used quite rarely. You might have heard of it. Have you heard of the bump the lamp situation?
No, I haven't.
It comes from. Have you ever seen the film Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Yes, I love that movie.
There was a scene where I think it was Roger. He basically bumped his head on a lamp, like hence the name. But because he had to be hand drawn frame by frame, he didn't have a shadow. So somebody went through that. Somebody went through that scene and hand drew a shadow for him.
I see. I love that movie, so now every time I watch it, I'm gonna sit and look out for that.
Yeah, it's like you're gonna look out for the instance where Roger like bumps his like head on that, but just gonna point at it like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Every time I watch that movie, I'm gonna think of you just telling me that fact. That's what it's gonna be from now on.
I haven't watched that film in years, but I really want to.
Yeah. Oh, it's really good. It's a classic. It's a very, very good film. I
Yeah,
did like the animation. I'm not very technical about like animation and stuff, but I liked the big squid thing. I liked
yeah.
it. It looked very realistic. I thought it was quite good. I wish some of the creatures we could have seen more of. So like the big spider one, the squid was amazing. I want a full movie on just the squid alone. The squid looked class. Or like the
Yeah.
big stick insect one, the one that like a big log. I thought it was quite cool. I'm a lot more interested in these like strange characters, like strange creatures and Kong opposed to like the humans. I don't want to
Yeah.
watch a monster movie and see all these humans.
But at the same time, a lot of the attention has to go to Kong. Otherwise, it would be
Oh,
called
yeah.
Kong and Friends Skull Island.
They could have just made it like Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and made it here is King Kong, and here is a whole load of like featuring a lot more
Yeah.
strange creatures. Oh, I really like.
Like King Kong of the Monsters.
Yeah, I mean, it could make it work.
Yeah. But then again, you'd be like missing out on like the like title of like where it is, Skull Island, the totally not evil island.
Not even island. Pretty okay island.
Yeah, the like the pretty meh island.
Yeah, decent island.
Yeah,
One thing
it's
that
all right.
annoyed me about the island was at the start they had this like storm going on, like all the black clouds and the thunder and like the lightning, and it's like
Yeah.
red skies like through these black clouds. And then at the end, when they're sailing away, it's like just kind of misty, a little bit gray skies, and then blue skies in the background. I'm like, what happened to the big storm?
Probably just the clouds just sort of like noticed like all the trouble they just got through to get out. It's like, we'll cut them some slack.
They're just seeing what they want to see. Blue skies on the horizon. Everything's fine now.
Yeah, maybe it would have been better if they just sort of sailed across, but then that wouldn't have been as dramatic of an entrance.
Oh, true. Yeah, I will say that for like an opening kind of action scene, that was quite a good like first sequence. It was really, really good. And
Yeah,
very intense.
I like the little detail because you mentioned the scene where they were like playing Black Sabbath and like flying over the islands. I
Mhm.
love the fact that the action like starts, but like the music doesn't like immediately cut off. There's like
Oh
music
yeah.
playing as they're like flying along, and then in the distance you just sort of see like an object just sort of getting like closer towards them. And then just when you realize it's a tree, it hits them, and that's when the music cuts out.
Yeah. That was very good. I like that.
As well as the beginning of that scene where like Kong's like fighting the helicopters. I love because normally with like monster reveals, they normally go for like very low angles to show you like the absolute size of the lads.
Yeah. The size of the lads.
The absolute size of them. But what they did instead with Kong was they had him sort of like rise as a sort of like silhouette against the sunset,
Yeah.
comparing him to the size of the mountains around him.
That was good. I liked whenever he was fighting the helicopters, they had the scene where they had the helicopter, but obviously where everyone sits in the helicopter is open, and he held it up and you could just see one eye through the helicopter.
Yeah.
That scene was perfect. Just that image was just terrifying. I thought it was a really good, like impactful scene. So it
It
was
also shows that Kong isn't entirely, capable of, fighting the helicopters because he tries grabbing one, but then he like slices his hand on like the rotor blades.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
that I think that's the idea of like trying to catch a fidget spinner with a knife on the end of it.
Oh, that's a horrible image. A fidget spinner with knives.
But yeah, it's a horrible image, but that's probably what it was like catching that helicopter.
Yeah, I think that does kind of bring it back around to what you said about Kong's humanity. Like he can be harmed. He is like
Yeah,
he's not invincible. He's not this big scary thing that's can't be killed. Yeah, I think that does kind of bring it full circle to
yeah.
his kind of human traits.
I guess
His
that's also
vulnerability.
the benefit to it being like rated 15 because
Mm.
was the Jack Black and Andy Serkis film rated like PG-12 or something?
I have no idea. I'm not sure.
Because I remember because I remember like very vaguely. It's been like years since I watched that film, but
Yeah.
the scene at the end where he like climbs the tower and he's like being like shot by those planes, like
Mhm.
it's more or less sort of implied what pain he's in, but you don't really sort of like see the bullet marks of where he's been hit.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with this one, it takes advantage of the fact that it's for older audiences. You see like the bloody scratches on his hand. You see the sword mark on his arm and stuff like that.
Mm. That
Like you
I
show
looked.
that he's like taking damage.
Mm, I looked it up there, and that movie was 12A. So this one being a 15 definitely does. There's a lot of contrast in the images they can show.
Yeah, monster films definitely work better with like their higher age rating.
And I just enjoy
Was
the gore.
the gore.
Always the gore, of course.
It's like we don't really care if we just see like humans get teared to pieces, but we see like just Kong get a scratch on his hand. It was like, oh, poor monkey.
Yeah, it was so sad. It was really sad. The stick insect was adorable, and the spider I felt bad for as well. I felt bad for it. They didn't have to kill it. Sad.
Well, he did accidentally sort of step on like stood on slash impaled one of their soldiers. I like. I've just realised the kind of irony that there is to that compared to like a human standing on a spider. It's a spider standing on a human.
Oh, finally the revenge. Revenge
Yeah,
is kicking off. Here we go.
like imagine that giant spider sort of like getting out of that forest and just seeing it's got like a dead human on the end of its leg.
Oh my god. I just think of these massive spiders and I just think of War of the Worlds. All these massive spiders just gonna come and get us.
I've not seen that film.
Oh, it's a good one. It's a good one.
The fact that you've said that there's like giant spiders in it, I'm very tempted just to show that to my sister just to see her freak out.
Oh no. Oh, I love spiders. Trying to look through my notes and thinking of things in this film because I feel like so much action happened, but at the same time, as an experience, you feel like not much really happened. I think that's a story. I don't know.
We could talk about John C. Riley's character
Hmm.
because he's basically the character that we essentially start the film with and essentially end the film with.
Oh yes, yes, the old guy that got left on the island. Yeah.
Yeah, from World War II.
Yes, I know what you mean now. Like he was the only one. Him and there was another guy. I think he was called like Slivko or like Slivkov or something. Whatever his name was. He was the only one that stood out to me to have like any kind of character progression. But yeah, the old guy definitely had a bit more background to him and a bit more progression.
He's essentially the Tom Hanks castaway of this situation.
Definitely is. He definitely is. I really liked his story with the Japanese guy Akari at
Yeah.
the start. I feel like that as a story itself to have them hate each other and then spend so many years together and form this
Yeah.
bond. And one of them died, and then he mourned him for years, and then kind of remembered him and spoke of him as his friend, opposed to the enemies they were at the start. I
Yeah.
feel like that as a story and as character progression, there's a lot more in that one little story that was told in like 2 flashbacks than there was in the entire film for the rest of the characters.
But at the same time, you've also got to remember is that he goes on and on about how how they became like best friends, but the only real interaction that you saw of them was the katana slicing across his hand. It was like, oh yeah, I remember when my best friend sliced a katana across my hand. Good times. Then we saw a giant monkey and realized, you know what, we'd be better off if we weren't together. Let's build a hut.
Oh. Yeah, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. I think the other guy that I mentioned, like Slivko or whatever his name was, he had he had like a moral dilemma. I feel like that was quite
Which
good.
one was that character?
Oh, yeah. I don't know how else to explain him. He's one of the soldiers, but he was the guy that Samuel L. Jackson's character was telling him to obviously they're gonna kill King Kong, and then the other set of characters were like, no, don't do that. We want to protect him. And when they all kind of like pulled their guns on each other, he was like the guy that changed.
Oh, to the guy. Yeah, I think I know who you're on about. Yeah.
I think he was the only one that had that kind of like contrast in like a moral dilemma, kind of, will he do this or will he do that? He kind of had a bit more of a story and like an issue with things that was more resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that in his character.
It would have been better if I could, because you know how Samuel Jackson and Samuel Jackson's character, the group that they were in, they were all trying to find this one soldier out in the middle of the trees.
Yeah.
I think it would have been better if that guy who turned the gun was the soldier they were looking for.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because who they end up looking for, and the only reason I remember the actor's name, Toby Cabell, is because he did the motion capture for Kong.
Oh right. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like he did great for the motion capture, but his character is in a completely different other realm of just meh.
Yeah. He good for Big Monke.
Yeah, he good for Big Monke.
Monkey. As a human, he's a bit flat.
Yeah.
Mm.
Kind of like how he ended up after fighting that giant lizard.
Oh yeah, true. The bit where like the buffalo kind of looking creature
The yak.
that's probably a better way to describe it, definitely. Got like it was crushed by like a helicopter or something. Like it got a bit of debris, and then the woman was like trying to lift it up and she couldn't get it. And that to me was like, why would you do that? But also the fact that King Kong just appears and lifts it off it. How did she not hear him approach?
Yeah, that's quite a common complaint that I see about this film. It was like somehow Kong is able to move around like very, very quietly.
Yeah, he's just a stealth monkey. He just goes stealth mode and sneaks up on everybody.
I mean, thinking about it, someone who is able to move around very stealthily, parents are dead, spends the entire time defending other creatures from nastier ones. We are basically looking at Gorilla Batman.
Oh my god. I think Gorilla Batman is the best way to describe him. Oh my god.
That's essentially what we can see Godzilla versus Kong as. It's basically Lizard Superman versus Gorilla Batman.
Yeah, it's Batman versus Superman all over again. Well, I will say, hopefully this movie will be better than that one. So,
I'm probably more of the sort of less popular side of the fact that I like parts of Batman v Superman.
Right.
I don't enjoy all of it. Some of the bits in it I can admit are quite terrible, but I enjoy parts of it.
Yeah.
Mainly the visuals.
Oh, for me, it's just not it. It's just nah. I can't. Oh no. I went to see it in cinema when it came out, and I was so hyped. I was like, oh, Batman and Superman. I was just loving it, and then the movie just ruined all my expectations.
It's probably because they spent about 2 hours building up an 8-minute fight.
True.
I'm hoping Godzilla versus Kong doesn't do that.
I feel like in that movie, I wanted to see a lot more used because I feel like it was just a lot of physical fights. But if you have Batman versus Superman, please use the things that make you Superman. Use your powers and use like the gadgets you have to be Batman. I wanted to see a lot more epic battles with weapons and stuff used against each other and see how one's powers would impact the other a bit more rather than just, oh, I'm strong, let's have a fight.
Yeah. I've got a sort of basic idea in my head of what I think Godzilla versus Kong is going to be, which I'm hoping isn't the case. I predicted it specifically to hope that it doesn't turn out like that. So my prediction is the first third is going to be focused on the humans being attacked by Godzilla and trying to figure out why.
Yeah.
Which will be quite boring because there'll probably be about 10 minutes of Godzilla destroying stuff, and then it'll cut to the humans trying to figure out why. The second third, I reckon, will be trying to get Kong off of Skull Island. Because, needless to say, getting a giant monkey off an island is probably going to take a while. And then the last third of the film is just going to be nothing but them fighting.
Yeah. Who do you reckon will win? What do you reckon the outcome will be? I have a pretty set bet already, so I want to hear your thoughts.
I don't really have a sort of set bet on who I think could win, but surprisingly who I want to win is just I want to see Kong win purely for the idea of a giant monkey beating the daylights out of a giant lizard.
Fair enough. That's a good point. I want Godzilla to win, hands down. The super nuked up lizard is going to beat the monkey.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, because in King of the Monsters, they souped him up with a nuke. This thing is so hard to kill, and then there's this massive monkey's gonna come along and, you know. Oh, I can't see. I just cannot see Kong.
It is very much to bring the Batman v Superman comparison back. You wouldn't see like a caped crusader with no powers being able to take down a literal sort of like godly being.
True, that is a fair point. I feel like I have just too much of a connection to Godzilla, where I just hope that he wins and everything. I just want that character to win. It's my favorite.
Fair enough, I suppose. But we'll just have to see what the outcome is in. Is it March that it comes out?
Oh, maybe. I haven't checked it out, actually.
I think it's coming out in March because I remember hearing that there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to come out like next month. There's going to be Godzilla versus Kong. There's the first few episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Right.
There's going to be the finale to WandaVision somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also going to be the Snyder cut of Justice League.
Oh God. Fair enough.
Which I think is like an entirely different topic for a whole other conversation.
Oh yeah, definitely. This is the kind of material that would get me on a rant, and I would just never stop if we start talking about all this stuff.
Do you want to be like invited for like when it does come out and to just so we can spend about an hour of your ranting on your terrible Wi-Fi like to the film?
Mm-hmm. I feel like when Godzilla versus Kong does come out, we should do one, and then it'll just be our opposing views on who should have won.
It's just going to be like an hour sort of like debate about like who should have won. You'll be giving me all the like scientific like factors as to like how Godzilla will have won, and I would just sat there like, but Big Monkey.
But Big Monkey. Big Monkey, decent island. Big Monkey.
Yeah, as Kong and the 3 stars on Travelodge Island.
Oh. I mean, it's gonna get pretty poor reviews now because they have blown it up. So
yeah, it's like a lot of people did die on that mission. So you gotta hope that trip was at all protected.
It's gonna just be like TripAdvisor reviews. How highly would you rate Kong's gaff? 2 stars. 2 stars. That's it. Poor monkey. Poor monkey.
You just spend the entire time there just like not just taking in the scenery but just like feeling sorry for this like giant monkey.
I think you get distracted taking in the scenery. You just be like lost in the clouds, and then you get impaled.
Speaking of Kong, another thought that's just like approached me my head. You mentioned about like how is he able to like move around without anybody hearing him?
Yeah. I
think about how he's able to move through what is essentially very, very deep water, and just thinking how many fish has he stepped on?
That's a good point. What I always think whenever I see scenes like that with him in water, especially, is imagine what he smells like.
Oh.
Like a wet dog, but so much worse. I just can't imagine it. Oh no, that would be grim.
Like imagine like the giant creatures having to like watch him bathe himself.
Oh, that's so sad.
Do you reckon he has his like little like homemade like shower like Shrek does?
Oh yeah, I'm sure he does. Like he stands under a waterfall. That would be it. It'd be perfect for him. Yeah. I have one note on, there was a guy, I don't remember his name because I found this absolutely ridiculous. He's one of the...
I feel like we're going to be saying that a lot throughout the Godzilla and like Kong films. Like there's a character, I don't remember his name, but he was played by
Yeah. He was called Cole, and he was the soldier that near the end, whenever they were trying to escape, I think it was Kong fighting the, what do they call them, like skull crawlers or something, or like
skull crawlers, yeah.
He was the one that had the grenades, and he walked towards it to like sacrifice himself.
Oh,
that was so pointless. He had like, there was like 2 scenes where he kind of like looked mysterious and then like looked at the camera, and you were kind of like, oh, what's going on there? you were kind of waiting for like the build up of his character, but then he was like, "Nah, mate, I'm just gonna go blow myself up. That's it." And
Oh, me and my sister were howling with laughter at that scene. It was like it was like the music and the like slow mo and like the imagery of like setting him up for like this sort of really noble death, and then the Skullcrawler just smacks him into the wall. It's like, get out my way, mate.
He had no build up, no reason to do that. It was the most pointless sacrifice. I think you're meant to go, "Oh no, he's sacrificing himself. That's so sad and so heroic." But I was like, nah, like that's just stupid. You may as well blow yourself up. Like you have no point. So I mean, go for it. No sympathy here. Oh no, that got me. Oh, there's some scenes in this film I swear are just too comedic. Oh no.
Yeah, so it's like there's many scenes in this comedic, both intentional and unintentional.
Oh yeah, definitely. There was some bits that were just cringy. Like some of the dialogue was like had the attempt of being quite funny, and I was just sitting there like, that's just not the way to go about it.
I did, I did think there were like feel like cringe moments on some occasions. What I'm glad they didn't do is they didn't go to the length of trying to make Tom Hiddleston's character and Brie Larson's character like fall in love with each other.
Oh yeah, that had me tense as well because usually a lot of films like that you kind of have the rugged heroic man and then the smart intelligent woman and then they're just there to be love interests for each other. But I like that a lot. That's a good
Yeah,
point about the movie.
it's a good thing that they like just pals.
Yeah, they're just mates, you know.
Yeah.
Big Monkey brought them together. They're just good friends.
Yeah, the Big Monkey brought them. Yeah, brought them together. It reminds me of a really funny image that I saw of them. It was like it was the scene at the end where like Brie Larson had just been like rescued from the water and they were like hugging each other. It was a picture of that, and then right below them, someone had edited like a picture of like Thor running towards the camera, screaming "Loki!"
Oh, that is a good one. But the thing that got me about her falling into the water was the scene when she fell off the cliff. There was all this debris around her and all these falling rocks. And then when she falls into the water, it's just calm. There's nothing. There's nothing around her. It's just her in the water. I was like, what happened to all the boulders and the mud and the sticks and the trees and all this debris that fell with her? I was like,
I don't know. Maybe it's like lag.
Maybe it's like
Maybe it's falling lag.
Maybe my Wi-Fi cut out. I didn't see that bit. Maybe.
It just sort of cuts back to like the rocks falling, and they're just sort of they've got like the little like loading like circle on them.
Oh, these glitch too much. Oh my goodness.
Suddenly turns out to be like all a simulation, and Skull Island is run on Windows XP.
Oh no! Oh no! Kong is just one big green screen. That's why he's so quiet. He never actually moved. He's just 2D. He's just one big green screen. That's why the storm disappeared as well. Took out the effects. That was it.
My fan fiction will explain all of it.
The boulders were made out of like polystyrene, and you just lift up one of like the little like mesh huts. There's a man in there with like like pots and pans, just banging them together to make the storm with all the like thunder and lightning. He's just making the crashes and the sky doing the foley in the side.
It's like flashing like a torch to represent lightning.
Yeah, that was it. They have all the animals running around, and it's just him kind of like banging on a drum.
No. They have it with you have it with like coconuts from Monty Python.
Yes. Oh yes, they have the coconuts. Well, that is another good movie. I feel like from talking about Kong Skull Island, we've kind of brought up all these other really good movies that are actually good because Kong Island just isn't that great. Monty Python is amazing.
It really is.
That was a holy grail as well. It's one of the best movies. I love that movie.
Made on a very small budget, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, very small budget. I love the point that the budget was so small they had to make the castle out of a model. And they tried to make the castle look really big, but they had it made out of like a cardboard model. I love that because you can see the bits, like the little like bits on the side holding it up, and once you know.
Now that one-liner that they used in it actually makes a lot more sense when they first like discover Camelot. Like Camelot, it's only a model.
Exactly. I mean, all these details kind of build up. That's what I was gonna say that line. I was like leaning towards all these little details of like seeing the supports at the side and seeing the low angles that they film it from. All leads up to your man saying it's just a model.
Yeah. Back on topic to Kong Skull Island. So right, I did a very similar thing with Joe with my Revolution of the Daleks podcast.
Right?
Yeah, it's like we were meant to be talking about Revolution of the Daleks, but we spent about 50% of the time just talking about other Doctor Who stories.
I would, if I was talking about the Revelation of the Daleks, I would talk about the other ones. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot better to talk about, so.
I mean, there really is. There's a lot more better Doctor Who stories to talk about than Revolution of the Daleks. Many.
I think you need to pick movies and like shows and different series that are like very, very good. Because then we won't get all these tangents.
Yeah.
Because I think it would be funny though, because you can kind of rip this one apart and it's quite humorous. I like that.
Yeah. All right. In the last few minutes of this, we can. I mean, I know we gave like a summary of like thoughts on the film, like the start of it. But we can, now that we've talked about it a bit more, we can now sort of give our sort of in-depth overall thoughts about it. So we'll start with you first.
Oh, okay. Just throw me in there. I do still stand by my 50-50 rating, but I feel like if I was to rate it on purely the basis of it being a monster movie with all these strange creatures and epic fight scenes and a really good battle, I feel like it would be a lot higher. I give it maybe like an 8 or something.
Yeah.
It was very, very good. But in the case of story and characters and stuff, it was that those plot points were pretty meager. They weren't that good, so that does bring it down. But yeah, I'd say as a viewing experience, it was really good. But it's not a movie that I would think about after.
Yeah, I'm sort of in the same sense of if I'm ever like thinking about like Kong Skull Island, I'm not thinking about the story of the characters, mostly because I just remember them by their actors' names.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm remembering this film, it's to do with the action, it's to do with like the cinematography, the different colors that they use, and just sort of like the action itself.
We mentioned the cinematography. I did like the scene with the napalm in the water and they lit it on fire. That was just an epic scene with Kong on fire. That was really good. I like that. I think a lot of the imagery was very good with the monsters and stuff. They had a lot of impact.
Yeah. Another trick that I noticed that they did, specifically, I think with Kong, I'm only sort of like going off of memory, but I think aside from the yaks, I think Kong is the only monster that they film with like a that they film sort of like a medium sort of camera level.
Yeah.
Which further adds to, but which I think of like further adds to like being more human. But in terms of like the skull crawlers, as far as I can remember, in terms of memory, unless they're being literally stomped on by Kong, they're always like filmed from like a sort of low angle.
Yeah. I quite like the skull crawlers. I didn't like them as like the main villains. I thought they were a little pathetic, and then the big one that was made to be like this amazing big, scary creature kind of just came up and wasn't that impressive. Like the tongue, the effects on that was quite cool with like the split tongue. It was quite nice. But I feel like it was a bit. I kind of just called them like scary tadpoles.
Scary tadpoles.
That's what they looked like. They were just kind of scary tadpoles. So I didn't really have much of a wow. That's a really scary.
Does that mean that by the process of by process of evolution in the next Kong film, we're gonna just see Kong wailing on a giant frog?
Big scary frog. Yeah, maybe. That'd be quite good.
Yeah, I
feel
think the
like,
skull crawlers themselves, they were admittedly savage looking.
yeah,
That you could totally see them like being like the dangers of the like island that they are. The fact that like the fact that their like pupils were like very small,
yeah.
I think gave them a sort of terrifying presence. But yeah, I do believe that a lot of them were effectively and quite literally curb stomped
Oh
by
yeah,
Kong.
definitely.
Because Kong pulls off some proper like WWE moves on them.
Oh yeah, he does. I love the bit where he has the like the propeller from one of the boats on the
Yeah,
chain, and he just flings it at its neck. That
yeah,
was a great scene. I loved that.
yeah.
Yeah, Kong be absolutely fierce with that. Like he was swinging this blade on a chain. He was
Yeah,
vicious.
my sister found it funny how when he flung like when he flung the propeller like into like the skullcrawler's head and sort of started pulling it towards him, and she said it kind of reminded her of like the sort of dance move where you like lasso someone and sort of pull them.
Yeah, Kong just starts dancing. That would be class. Oh
I
my
feel like if Kong was to dance in a film, people would either be incredibly disappointed or feel like they've got their money's worth.
Oh yeah. That in itself would just be a great experience. That'd be quite cool.
But anyway, I think with the stuff I've recorded, I think I've got enough of this. Thank you for joining me for this, Ray.
Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, and I'll see you guys for next week's recording. This has been Luke Carruthers recording for Escaping Through the Lens.